This happened about a month ago. I'm Jake, 35, a part-time barista and a full-time historian. I had moved back to my childhood home to take care of my aging mom. There's something unsettling about storms in this small town, especially in our creaky Victorian house. On those stormy nights, I felt like the history of this place was unraveling. I couldn't shake that feeling. One evening, while I sorted through old family photos, I found a dusty album in the back of a closet. I flipped through the pages. The sound of rain turned into a dull roar outside. Suddenly, I heard tapping against the window. It startled me. Lightning flashed, lighting up the room for a short second. Maybe I imagined it, a trick of the storm. I shrugged it off, but a chill crept down my spine. The next storm hit just a few days later. It was louder and fiercer. Thunder rumbled as I wrapped up my day. My heart raced a bit. I walked from room to room checking on my mom, who was asleep. For a moment, shadows darted between the walls. I thought back to that tapping. Was it just the wind? I tried to convince myself. The atmosphere shifted by the third storm. I settled on the couch to read my book. The pages felt heavy. When thunder boomed, I jumped. Then I heard whispers. They echoed through the halls, soft but clear, like hushed conversations. My heart raced, and I felt cold. I stood up to investigate but hesitated. I walked into the hallway. Rain pounded against the windows. As I peered into the dark corners of the house, a shadow flitted by. I gasped, thinking I saw something. It could have been lightning casting strange shapes or just my imagination. It felt like I was being watched. The feeling was overwhelming. That last storm was worse than the others. I couldn't sleep. I could hardly breathe. I swear I heard knocks again. More insistent, like someone was trying to get my attention. My heart raced as I tossed in bed. Then, I thought I heard a whisper calling my name. Trembling, I turned toward the sound. Nothing was there. Just darkness and rain. I couldn't shake the feeling that something strange lingered around me. In the morning, I found myself staring at the empty halls. I took a deep breath, trying to shake the memories of that week. Was it the storms waking something in this house? Or was it all in my head? I didn't know. Then I heard a voice clear as day, right in front of me. "Jake, don't you remember?" I turned around. Nobody was there. Just the echo of the storm fading in the distance. I was left alone in that Victorian house, surrounded by the weight of its history, gripping me tighter than the storms outside. I never felt quite right again. The following days felt unnerving. The storms had passed, but they left behind a lingering heaviness in the house. I decided to distract myself by diving into research. I spent hours searching for historical records at the local library. I wanted to uncover more about our home's past, but the words blurred as I thought about that voice. Who had called my name? And why did it feel so familiar? One afternoon, as I pored over dusty books, a name jumped out at me. Eleanor Hawthorne. She was a resident of my house back in the late 1800s. I felt a strange tug as I read about her tragic story. She had lost her husband in an accident and died shortly after. The description of her, lost, searching, and not at rest, clung to my thoughts. Was she the one trying to get my attention? That night the clouds rolled in, and the atmosphere crackled with energy. The house creaked as rain hammered against the roof. I sat on the couch, clutching a book about Eleanor, hoping to grasp the truth. But as the storm roared outside, panic began to settle in. The whispers returned, clear and unsettling, echoing through the air. I clenched the book, heart racing. Then I heard a knock. Not from the window this time, but from the front door. My breath caught in my throat. Who could be at the door in such weather? I hesitated, but curiosity pulled me toward it. I slid the heavy door open, bracing myself against the rush of wind. The porch was empty, drenched with rain. Then came another sound. A soft sobbing filled the air. I froze. I stepped outside, the rain soaking me instantly. Looking around, I searched for the source, but all I found was the storm raging on. Then, as if guided by an unseen force, I turned my head towards the old oak tree in the yard. I saw a figure there, drenched but standing still as if waiting for me. "Eleanor?" I called out, my voice wavering. The figure didn't move, but the sobs grew louder. I moved closer, overwhelmed by a mix of fear and fascination. My mind raced with questions. Was I truly seeing her? Or was it just a figment of my imagination? Just as I reached the tree, the wind howled, and everything changed. The figure vanished. One moment I saw her, and the next, she was gone. I stumbled, tripping over my own feet, my heart pounding. Panic flooded my senses, and all I could think was that I wasn't alone. I turned to run back inside when I heard a voice, urgent and clear, calling my name again. "Jake!" I dashed through the rain, flinging the door shut behind me. My heart raced as I leaned against the door, trying to catch my breath. I stood there, shaking, unsure of what I'd just witnessed. As the storm swirled outside, a new thought crept into my mind. What if Eleanor was trying to tell me something? What if she needed help? And just as it seemed I had answers, another question knocked at the back of my mind. Was she truly trying to reach out to me? Or did something worse linger in the shadows of this house? I took a deep breath, swallowing my fear. Whatever it was, I knew I had to find out. But I wasn't prepared for what was coming next. Then I heard it, a tapping, this time right above me. I looked up, heart hammering. The tapping continued, soft yet insistent, like fingernails against wood. It came from the ceiling, echoing through the empty room. I clenched my jaw, trying to convince myself it was just the house settling. But the rhythm was familiar, almost mimicry. I took a cautious step backwards, waiting for the next sound, my breath shallow. "Eleanor," I whispered. But no answer came, just the patter of rain and the relentless tapping. I felt the hairs on my arms stand on end. "If you're here, show me." Silence enveloped me for a moment, and I strained to hear any sign that could guide me. But the air felt thick, oppressive. Then, without warning, a loud crash reverberated from above, and I jumped back, heart racing again. It came from the attic. No more hesitation. I had to know. I grabbed a flashlight from the kitchen drawer and headed toward the staircase that led to the attic door. Every step creaked under my weight, a sound I'd grown used to, but tonight it felt more foreboding. I reached the door, pausing to gather my nerves. The brass knob was cold in my hand. I turned it slowly and pushed the door open. Darkness greeted me, thick enough to feel. I shined my flashlight inside, illuminating cobwebs and old crates. There was no sign of disturbances, but I could feel a lingering pressure, as if the attic itself was breathing. Then I heard it again. The tapping. It was more frantic now, like fingers drumming impatiently. My heart raced, and I stepped inside, the door creaking shut behind me. I scanned the space with the beam of my flashlight. There, on the wooden beams, I saw it. A small, old box, untouched by time or dust. It looked out of place, almost inviting with its worn leather hinges. I approached cautiously, the tapping growing louder as I drew near. With shaking hands I opened the box. Inside were old letters, yellowed and fragile, along with a rusted locket. I picked up the locket, my fingers trembling. When I opened it, a tiny portrait of a woman stared back at me. It looked strikingly like the figure I had seen outside. "Eleanor," I whispered, a mix of awe and fear coursing through me. But before I could process the implications, the attic door slammed shut behind me. The sound resonated like thunder, and the light flickered momentarily before the darkness swallowed me whole. Panic clawed at my throat. I pounded on the door, but it wouldn't budge. "Let me out!" My voice echoed in the confined space. The tapping ceased, replaced by an eerie silence that felt suffocating. I shined my flashlight around, desperately searching for an escape. That's when I noticed something moving in the corner of my eye. In the shadows, the outline of a figure began to take shape, swirling like smoke. "Jake," it whispered, a sound like wind through branches. My pulse quickened, dread washing over me. I couldn't tell if it was Eleanor or something else entirely. I backed away, adrenaline coursing through my veins. What did it want from me? Just as quickly as it had appeared, the figure dissolved, leaving only the oppressive silence. I needed to escape. But the attic now felt like a trap. My eyes darted around, seeking anything that could serve as a weapon or a way to pry the door open. Then I heard another voice, this one soft and familiar. "Help me." It was Eleanor. But her voice resonated with desperation. I could not ignore the plea. Ignoring the mounting terror, I managed to steady my breathing, determined to uncover more about her and what this house truly held. I glanced down at the letters, knowing instinctively they were pivotal. I needed to read them to understand what connected us. The longer I stayed, the more I felt the weight of her sorrow pressing down on me. Before I could change my mind, I sat down on the dusty floor, ready to unlock the mystery. And that was when the darkness around me thickened, and everything went black. I gasped as I came to, the flashlight flickering back to life in my hand. Light flooded the attic. But it felt different now, distorted like looking through a funhouse mirror. I blinked rapidly, trying to make sense of my surroundings. The box with the letters lay closed beside me, untouched despite my earlier panic. "Eleanor?" I called out, my voice trembling. The air shimmered as if charged with electricity. There was no answer, only the sound of distant thunder rumbling through the rafters. I forced myself to stand, brushing the dust off my jeans. The attic felt too small, too close. I needed fresh air, clarity. I took a step towards the door. Suddenly the temperature dropped. I shivered as a cold breeze slipped through the cracks. With it came a whisper, more urgent than before. "Jake." I froze. It was Eleanor, but something in her tone twisted my stomach. It sounded like a cry for help, yet it was laced with an almost haunting sorrow. I hesitated, rooted to the spot. The door, still tightly shut, felt like a barrier I could not cross. I turned back toward the box, drawn by an unseen force. Something compelled me to open it again. I knelt beside it and lifted the lid, hoping for answers. The letters were written in a neat, swirling script, dated long before my time. I picked one up, my heart racing as I read the first few lines. "To my dearest Eleanor." My breath caught. The letters weren't just a link to her. They spoke of a love torn apart, of dark times and promises made. My fingers traced the ink, and I couldn't help but feel that these words held more than memories. They felt alive. Wrapped in the letters, I discovered another item, an old newspaper clipping. The headline sent a chill down my spine. "Local woman disappears under mysterious circumstances." I recognized her name. Eleanor Hart. "Disappeared?" I muttered, the words tasting like ash in my mouth. My thoughts raced. Was the figure I had seen earlier a ghost of Eleanor? Her ethereal form lost in time? I scanned the room quickly, searching for something more, anything that could finally bring clarity. Scribbled in the margins of the newspaper was a date. October 13th, 1923 size. The same date that filled my mind after the storm last night. My chest tightened. This couldn't just be a coincidence. Something about that night, about these letters, was tightly woven into my own history. Suddenly the attic door rattled, sending a bolt of fear through me. I jerked my head towards it. The sound of creaking wood pierced the silence, and then it swung open with a bang. Standing in the doorway was a figure. Tall, cloaked in shadow. "Jake!" The voice echoed again. But now it had a malicious edge. I stumbled back, dread pooling in my stomach. This wasn't Eleanor. At least, not the Eleanor I wanted to know. A mist crept from the figure, filling the attic with an otherworldly chill. "Help me!" it whispered, stretching out a hand. My instincts screamed for me to run, but I was rooted in place. There was a connection between us, a pull that felt impossible to resist. I glanced back at the letters, then back at the figure, torn between fear and an unexplainable need to delve deeper. Before I could react, a powerful gust of wind blew into the attic, extinguishing my flashlight and plunging me into darkness again. I felt a hand grip my shoulder, a cold, clammy hand, and that's when I remembered. I had to break the cycle. I had to confront whatever had happened to Eleanor before it consumed me too. I stood frozen in the darkness. The cold hand on my shoulder was a stark reminder that I was not alone. Panic surged through me, but oddly enough, it was mixed with a strange sense of calm. I needed to know what happened, and I had to face it, even if the figure before me was not what I expected. "Who are you?" I managed to stutter. The grip tightened slightly, and the whisper returned, now clearer, louder. "You must listen. Find the truth." I didn't dare move. I focused on breathing, trying to quiet my racing heart. Memories of the letters filled my mind, fueling my resolve. Whatever connection I had with Eleanor deepened with every word I read. I had to get to the bottom of this, for both our sakes. Suddenly, the grip released, and I felt the presence retreat slightly. My heart pounded as if it sensed my need for light. I fumbled for the flashlight, my fingers brushing against the cold floor before finding the clicker. The beam flickered to life, and there she was. The figure. My breath caught as I finally saw her face. It was Eleanor, but there was something different about her. Her eyes glowed with an eerie sadness, yet they held an urgency that hit me like a wave. "Why are you here?" I asked, my voice steadier than I expected. "I am lost," she said, her voice blending with the wind howling outside. "I need you to uncover what happened. You can help me, Jake." I felt a rush of determination. "How? What do I do?" Her gaze seemed to search the shadows surrounding us. "The night of my disappearance. Find the old oak tree near the river. It's the key." Before I could ask more, a booming clap of thunder sounded overhead, rattling the attic. The walls trembled, and the lights flickered again, casting eerie shadows around me. I felt the pull of the figure weakening, fading away with every second. "Wait! Eleanor!" I shouted. But the energy around me shifted. The wind howled, and in one sweeping moment, she was gone, leaving me standing in a thick silence that felt suffocating. I could still feel the coldness lingering in the air. My mind raced. An oak tree by the river. I needed to get outside, away from this attic filled with memories and ghosts of the past. The letters, the picture of the tree, everything was beginning to connect. I bolted for the door, heart pounding and thoughts racing. As I rushed down the stairs, the storm rumbled louder, and flashes of lightning lit up the sky. The air pulsated with energy, and I knew I couldn't waste another moment. I stepped outside, drenched in rain, the cold biting into my skin, but I pushed onward towards the river. Just as I reached the bank, with the dark silhouette of the oak tree looming ahead, I saw it. The figure of Eleanor standing under its branches, waiting for me. I took a deep breath, feeling an overwhelming sense of purpose mixed with fear. As I drew closer, a creeping shadow loomed behind her, shifting in the stormy haze. It was watching us. That's when I realized I wasn't alone anymore. The wind whipped around me, carrying the stench of damp earth and something else. Something sinister. Eleanor stood beneath the oak, her figure barely discernible in the torrential rain. Every instinct screamed at me to turn back, but the pull of her presence and the urgency in her eyes anchored me. "Eleanor!" I shouted, my voice lost in the roar of thunder. I stepped closer, squinting against the rain. I could see the outlines of her face, ethereal yet strained, as she looked over her shoulder. I didn't like how she seemed to sense something looming nearby. "What do you want?" I managed to shout over the din. Her gaze darted toward the shadow hovering behind her. "You need to run," she urged, panic edging her voice. I hesitated. "No, I'm not leaving you." The shadow shifted, and in an instant it lunged towards us, a formless mass that dripped with darkness. I gripped my flashlight tighter, unsure if the light would make any difference. As I flicked the beam towards it, the shadow recoiled but quickly advanced again, relentless and hungry. "Jake!" Eleanor's voice pierced through the chaos. "Listen, the truth is buried here. We need to uncover it." "What truth?" I shouted back, trying to keep the fear out of my voice. The storm raged like an angry beast, and the shadows seemed to feed off its fury. "Dig beneath the tree," she commanded. "Find what I left." Before I could respond, the shadow lunged again, closer this time. I could feel an icy chill crawl along my skin, a sensation that sent terror spiraling through me. With every instinct screaming to flee, I knew I had to fight back, if not for me, then for Eleanor. I stumbled backwards, feeling the sturdy root of the oak beneath my feet. My heart raced as I pointed the flashlight at the ground, illuminating the gnarled roots tangled in the mud. I remembered the letters. Buried secrets waiting to be unearthed. "Hold on!" I shouted to Eleanor, and I dropped to my knees, pushing my hands into the wet earth. The rain mixed with the soil as I clawed at the ground, desperation driving my movements. As I dug, the shadow loomed closer, and I sensed its growing fury. Suddenly, my fingers hit something hard. My pulse quickened. I pulled at whatever it was with renewed energy, and the object came loose. A small, weathered box, bound with decaying twine. I gasped at the sight, stunned by the coldness radiating from it. "Jake, now!" Eleanor's voice pulled me back, slicing through the rising dread. I held the box up, my heart pounding in my chest. Thunder cracked above, and the shadow seemed to writhe, almost as if it was alive. "Open it," Eleanor urged. I hesitated, fear coiling tightly in my gut. What if this was the moment everything changed? What if I unleashed something dark and terrible? But I couldn't ignore her call. With shaking hands, I fumbled with the twine, loosening it until the box creaked open. Inside, I found scattered letters, echoes of Eleanor's past, and a single locket resting at the bottom. I lifted it out, and as my fingers brushed against the cool metal, the world around me shifted. Suddenly, flashes of memories washed over me. Unfamiliar faces, whispered secrets, a confrontation. Then everything went dark. When I opened my eyes, the storm had faded, replaced by an eerie stillness. The rain had stopped, and the scent of wet earth lingered in the air. But I was no longer in the clearing beneath the oak tree. I blinked against the sharp glare of bright light. I found myself in a dimly lit room, the walls lined with shelves cluttered with dusty books and strange trinkets. An old wooden desk sat across from me, littered with more letters and papers, their edges curled and yellowed with age. I looked around, disoriented, panic creeping in again. "Eleanor?" I called out, but the only reply was a hollow echo. My heart raced. Was this a dream? I steadied my breath and focused. The locket dangled from my neck, its cool metal grounding me. I reached inside my jacket, expecting to feel the box, but it was gone. Just the locket remained, humming softly against my chest. I stood, scanning the room for any indication of what had happened. Then I noticed a figure at the far end, silhouetted against the flickering candlelight. It was a tall woman, her back turned to me, dressed in a long vintage gown that swayed gently as she moved. I hesitated. Was she a friend or foe? "Who are you?" I asked, my voice trembling slightly. The woman turned slowly, revealing a face that was strikingly familiar. Eleanor's face, albeit older and etched with wisdom. Her eyes, however, held shadows that made me shiver. "You've come," she said simply, her tone carrying a mix of relief and sadness. "What's happening?" I demanded. "Where is Eleanor?" "That was only a part of me you knew," she replied, her expression somber. "I'm the memory, the echo of what once was. She brought you here for a reason. I was losing my grip." "What do you mean?" She gestured to the shelves filled with letters. "The truth is here. The past must be confronted before the future can be free." Her voice was soothing yet intense. The weight of her words hung in the air. I stepped closer, drawn by urgency. "The shadow. What is it?" "It feeds on forgotten truths, on unresolved pasts." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "You have to unveil the secrets. Only then will you find Eleanor again." I felt a knot of fear, the shadow I had encountered nagging at my mind. "How do I do that?" "Start with the letters," she urged, moving towards the stacks. "They will guide you." I reached for the nearest pile, fingers trembling as I sifted through them. The names, the dates, they felt familiar, but I couldn't place them. Then one letter stood out, its seal still intact. My breath caught. It was addressed to Eleanor. Before I could open it, a chilling wind surged through the room, extinguishing the candles. Shadows danced around me, swirling in the darkness. The feeling of dread suffocated me, and I immediately understood. I wasn't alone. Someone was watching. I turned slowly, scanning the room, heart pounding. "What do you want?" I shouted into the void. The shadows converged, and I felt a presence inching closer, hungry and unyielding. The flicker of candlelight returned, casting an unsettling glow on the figure behind me. And then I recognized the face. "Jake," it said, the voice a low, sinister whisper. It was Eleanor, but not as I knew her. The darkness had twisted her form, and she was no longer just an echo. I backed away, the letter still clutched in my hand, knowing now that I had to confront the truth or risk losing everything. I stumbled back, trying to make sense of the twisted figure before me. "Eleanor?" I whispered, my voice barely there. What had happened to her? The warmth I remembered was gone, replaced by an icy edge that sent chills through my body. "Do you really think she's coming back?" the figure sneered, her familiar voice dripping with mockery. "This is your fault, Jake. You couldn't save her." I shook my head, panic overtaking me. "No, I won't let you take her." As I spoke, the shadows throbbed with a malevolent energy. A low growl seemed to resonate from the walls, the darkness drawing closer. I clutched the letter tighter, its weight grounding me amidst the chaos. If I could just read it, I might find a clue to unravel this nightmare. But the figure lunged forward, her movement quick and unnerving. "You want the truth? Then face it." Just then, the letter slipped from my grip and fluttered to the floor. I scrambled to retrieve it, heart racing. With trembling fingers, I broke the seal and unfolded the parchment, my eyes darting over the handwritten words. "Dear Eleanor, if you're reading this, something is wrong." The ink blurred as tears stung my eyes. "I'm sorry. I've kept secrets from you. I thought I was protecting you." "Secrets?" I echoed, my voice cracking. "Don't you see?" the shadowed figure hissed. "They bind you to this place." I continued reading, and something caught my breath. An address, hidden among apologies and regrets. It felt like a lifeline. The letter spoke of a hidden room in the old house, one Eleanor had never shared with me. It hinted at a darkness that had haunted her family for generations. And just like that, the flickering lights dimmed again, plunging us into a suffocating darkness. I felt the weight of the shadows pressing on me, the figure's breath hot against my face. "Come closer, Jake. I'll show you how deep the truth runs." "No!" I shouted, instinctively moving away. The letter slipped from my fingers again, and this time, as it hit the ground, the room trembled. With a deafening crack that echoed like thunder, the walls shuddered. I could hear the shadows whispering my name, taunting me. "You can't escape what you've done." A sudden thought pierced through the panic. A way out. I had to find the address. I had to face whatever lay in that hidden room. It was my only chance to save Eleanor. I turned, my breath hitching as I locked eyes with the figure again. "I will find her," I declared, my resolve hardening amidst the fear. "Then hurry, Jake. Time is running short," she whispered, her voice a haunting melody drowning in despair. "The storm is far from over." The weight of her words sank in. I bolted towards the door, the echo of her twisted laughter chasing me into the dark hallway. I had no idea what awaited me, but I had a mission now. I had to confront the truth or lose Eleanor forever. And as I stepped into the shadows, a flicker of hope ignited within me. As I sprinted through the dark hallway, I felt every heartbeat throb in my ears. The sounds of my footsteps echoed like a countdown, each step urging me to move faster. I had to find that hidden room before it was too late. The address from the letter burned in my mind, a faint glow leading me through the chaos. I burst through the front door and into the stormy night. Rain lashed against my skin, sharp and cold, but I didn't hesitate. I dashed toward the old house that loomed in the distance, every flash of lightning revealing glimpses of the ominous structure. The wind howled, carrying whispers that chilled me to the bone. As I reached the porch, I hesitated. The door creaked open as if beckoning me inside. I swallowed hard, the memory of Eleanor's laughter ringing in my ears, a stark contrast to the dread I now felt. I stepped inside, the entrance dark as ever, shadows pooling in the corners like ink. The air was thick with musty smells and despair. I fumbled through my phone for the flashlight app, casting a weak beam that barely cut through the darkness. My heart raced as I made my way to the staircase. Each step felt heavy, like a weight pulling me back. I glanced around, searching for any sign of the hidden room. The letter had mentioned an old attic, a place Eleanor claimed to have never entered. I had to find it. Midway up the stairs, something caught my eye. A glimmer from the corner of the hallway. I approached cautiously, a feeling of unease crawling under my skin. There, on the floor, lay an old photograph. I bent down to pick it up, my breath hitching as I recognized Eleanor's face smiling back at me. But beside her, an unfamiliar girl peered toward the camera, eyes wide and shadowed. Who was she? I turned the photo over, but there were no more clues, just a brittle surface. I shoved it into my pocket, pushing forward, unease creeping back as a low rumble of thunder punctuated the silence. After what felt like an eternity of searching, I finally reached the attic door, the heavy wood barricaded by a rusted latch. I pried it open, a gust of stale air rushing out. A steep staircase led up into an abyss of darkness. But I could feel something drawing me in. As I ascended, the sound of something shifting above sent my heart racing. Was I alone? The moment I stepped onto the dusty floor, a wave of cold washed over me. That's when I saw it. A flicker of movement in the corner of the dim room. A figure loomed, half obscured by shadows. I froze, instinctively reaching for my phone, but the flashlight flickered and died, plunging me into darkness. "Who's there?" I whisper-shouted, hoping for a response. Silence. Then a soft whisper broke through. "You shouldn't have come here." I clenched my fists, fear clawing at my insides. "Where's Eleanor?" I demanded, taking a cautious step forward. The figure shifted, revealing a familiar face. I gasped as recognition struck. It was her, the girl from the photograph. "What do you want?" I managed, my voice shaking. "The truth is more dangerous than you know." Her words lingered in the air, heavy and foreboding. And just like that, a deafening crash of thunder shook the house, echoing eerily as the lights flashed back to life. Staring into her eyes, I realized I had ventured far beyond understanding. I was in a realm where the past and present collided, and the shadows grew heavier, pressing down with the weight of unspoken truths. I had to know what she meant, but I was terrified of the answers. The room trembled as I faced the girl from the photograph. Her eyes sparkled with an eerie glow. "You shouldn't have come here," she repeated, her voice resonating with an edge that crackled like electricity in the air. Every instinct screamed at me to leave, but understanding burned within me, leaving me no choice. "Where's Eleanor?" I demanded again, my pulse racing. "What do you want?" The girl chuckled, a sound that sent chills racing down my spine. "You know already, don't you? You've felt it. The truth binds us here, keeps us trapped, beneath your very feet." Her gaze flickered downward, and in that moment, I understood. Whatever lay beneath this attic held the key to everything. "What truth?" I pressed forward, desperation creeping into my voice. "I need to save her." A shadowed figure lurked behind her, pulsing with a menacing energy. The flickering light cast strange shapes across the attic walls. "You think love can save her?" the figure hissed. "You don't know what she has done." The floor beneath me felt unstable as I took a step back, struggling to process their words. Tears stung my eyes. "Eleanor hasn't done anything wrong. I can help her." The girl's face softened for a brief second, as if she wished to break free from the shadows that bound her. "You've only seen the surface. The darkness runs deeper than you can imagine." With renewed determination, I shifted my focus. "What must I do?" I queried, feeling the weight of the room pressing against me. I couldn't turn back now. "It's there, behind the wall." She raised a finger towards a section of the attic where the boards appeared more worn than the rest. "To free her, you must confront the curses born of this family. You need to uncover the truth." Drawing in a deep breath, I approached the wall cautiously, heart racing. The thunder still echoed outside, but it felt far away, as if less threatening now. I touched the wooden surface, tracing the grain with my fingers, praying it would reveal its secrets. "Help me!" A whisper came from within, frayed and desperate. "Eleanor?" I set to work, shifting boards aside, the sound of creaking wood sending panic fluttering through me. The figure of the girl watched intently, and the shadow writhed with displeasure. I could feel the weight of their expectations. My actions held their destinies in balance. As I pried the final board loose, cold air surged forth, wrapping around me like a whisper. I dropped to my knees, peering into the hidden space. My heart sank as I encountered a small, moldy box, its leather cracked and faded. I hoped this contained the answers I so desperately sought. I pulled the box into the light, recognizing the weight of centuries pressing down on it. "What are you hiding?" I murmured, almost to myself. I unlatched the box, revealing a bundle of letters, each one sealed with stains of tears or ink smudges. My hands trembled with anticipation. I tore one open, unfolding it carefully. It detailed a family secret, tragic and heartbreaking. Whispers of betrayal, lost love, and desperation were woven into each line. Names leapt off the page. Members of Eleanor's family I had never heard of, but now recognized as intertwined in this dark tapestry. Hollow echoes of theft and ill-fated choices had ripped them away from her. As the last letter crumbled in my hand, I felt a sudden rush of energy surge around me, the shadows coiling tighter, darker, feeding off my fear. The girl's figure flickered, and with it, that grotesque twisted shadow seemed to emerge more aggressively. "Only truth can break its hold," the girl screamed, her voice shaking the walls. "If you want Eleanor, you have to confront what binds us all." I glanced back into the now concealed darkness below the boarded wall, haphazardly clutching the locket that hung from my neck. "Eleanor!" I shouted, my voice ringing hollow in the chaotic silence. "I will not let you be consumed by this." And suddenly, the power of the revelation shifted. Everything coiled back on itself like an inescapable storm. The attic filled with blinding light, swirling shadows intertwining with a familiar warmth. Through the chaos, the distant sound of Eleanor's essence floated to me, a reminder of love, of connection. My resolve solidified as I turned back to the shadow, feeling a fierce, angry energy course through me. I realized I had not only come to uncover the past, but to break a cycle, a painful lineage I was now a part of. "You are nothing!" I shouted at the figure, as the flickering light thinly illuminated its twisted form. "You thrive off lies, but I will expose you." As the words left my lips, the darkness recoiled, wailing out a guttural cry that reverberated through the room. With each letter I had read, each shred of honesty unearthed, my courage rose, pushing back against the shadow's grip. And in that moment, I felt Eleanor's presence with me. Strong, unyielding. "You've done well, Jake," she whispered, her voice streaming through the storm. "Set me free." The figure was gone, but the shadows writhed, seeking weaknesses. I held the letters high above my head, awakening something raw and powerful inside me. "You will not take her," I called. With a final cry resonating from my throat, a brilliant white light erupted from the letters, banishing the shadow into nothingness. A sound like thunder tore through the night as the attic shuddered and trembled. And then, silence. The girl's figure began to dissipate, her voice no longer maleficent, but almost grateful. "You've freed us. Thank you." I turned, searching for Eleanor in the illuminated space. I couldn't catch my breath. Had I truly released her? As I blinked through the afterglow, I felt a soft rush of warmth envelop me. "Jake!" came a familiar voice, wrapping around my senses like a blanket. I stumbled back as the shadows surrounding the attic faded completely into light, revealing Eleanor smiling softly before me, a vibrant essence freed from torment. "Eleanor!" I stepped forward, relief flooding my chest. Without hesitation, I reached toward her, wanting to pull her back into my world. "Thank you for believing in me," she whispered, a smile washing over her face, illuminated by the lingering light. "Now we can finally move on." I nodded, tears stinging my eyes. I had faced the insidious truths of our history, but what we uncovered granted us both an important gift. I realized through the haze of memory and love that there was still unknown territory in front of us, unfinished stories yet to be told. In a breath, the world shifted again. I found myself standing under the oak tree, rain drizzling through the branches, shadows flitting through the underbrush. Maybe Eleanor hadn't just found her way out. Maybe she would always be connected to that house, but time would march on. For both of us. There would always be a lingering sense of weight with unanswered questions about what truly binds us in this world. And as I took a step forward, I whispered to the wind, "Goodbye, Eleanor." Sometimes I still dream of that night, of her and of the shadows, but I try to accept that some answers are not meant to be known. I moved on, but I never forgot. I still think about that old Victorian house, hoping it found its peace too.